Okay, first of all, I'd like to welcome Rachel Thomas-Medwid here with us at Hollywood Salvage today. I'm really excited to find out about all the projects, many projects and the awards that you've won. Honestly, too many to name a few. So at the end, we're going to put a link to your website so people can go and look for themselves and read about all of your accomplishments. And so Rachel, if you want to just start by telling us a little bit about yourself, we would love to hear just how you got started and what's currently happening. We'll get into some of the details a little bit later.
Sure. Well, first, thanks for having me. I'm thrilled to be here and see your store. It's wonderful. I can't wait to poke around after. I am a independent filmmaker, screenwriter, and director. The directing is the newer aspect of it. I directed my first short in January 2020, right before everything kind of exploded. But I did my second in July 2020, and I'm in pre-production for my third film, which we'll be shooting in September in Old Orchard Beach, Maine.
Yeah, okay. All right, great. Well, I was looking at some of the trailers, and I've got to say, I wanted to read more. I wanted to see it. I wanted to read the screenplay. And when are we going to be able to see some of these things coming out?
Okay, so This Girl's in the Attic, which was my first, it's wrapping up its festival run right now. It was all virtual, but it's still, I think it was in 16 festivals, and it just got picked up for Discover Indie Film, which is going to be on Amazon.
Okay,
so
great.
I'll get to share that. That's in season 5, and I'll be able to share that when it's out, which should be soon. They're in season 4 right now, so that's exciting.
Okay.
So, and then my second, and The Company of Crows, is, it's because it's in the festival circuit, it'll be like a little bit longer, but it has been like, because it's still virtual, some of the screenings, you get to see it on occasion. It just screened at Film Invasion Los Angeles for a weekend, and so people got to see it virtually, and we got many views, which that was actually the exciting part of doing even though there's downfalls to the virtual festivals, like you don't get the networking as well and all that stuff, but you do get more eyes on it, which is kind of why we make the films, is to get share them and have people watch. So that's been exciting, and it won Best Production Design, which was really exciting. That was a new award. So
that's awesome.
We were thrilled.
Yeah. I mean, I was really taken away by what I got to see in this story. And I'm really interested in your voice and the messages that they do have. They speak to, I believe you said, like a little bit about the darker side of human nature, and also giving voice to people that may not necessarily have the voice to speak. And I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. This Girl's in the Attic is really, it's about it's about a sex offender that never comes out. Like I write pretty subtly, but it's about the effects of that on somebody and the fallout that can affect numerous people. And for In the Company of Crows, my lead character is autistic. So we give that character a voice, which might be an underrepresented voice. And, they tend to do that in more subtle, subtext. I write with a lot of subtext ways, but I do tend to write, strong female characters. I like to give, and they're untraditional. They're not necessarily, I don't want to give anything away about This Girl's in the Attic, but, might not be a protagonist necessarily. They can be both protagonists, antagonists, but I try to make them real people and relatable, because everybody has that dark side, I believe.
Well, I found it really compelling and just really wanted to know more. Was it hard for you to write that voice, or did it just seem to, or for that character or those situations, did it just seem to come naturally and flow, or did you kind of have your own struggle about writing some topics?
That's a really good question. The way I tend to write is, it will start with a little idea, and it's either about a person or not people I know, but like all of my stories come from different places. Okay. So it's usually a spark of an idea, and I know when it happens. I don't necessarily know what I'm going to do with it. It could be something really odd, like an object, and I'm like, ooh, something just happened there. I know that's going to turn into something.
Mm-hmm.
And I let it like, gel in my mind and kind of come together as a story before I actually start writing, usually. And then, a lot of the process is also editing once you've gotten the framework down, and then really, really discovering who your characters are and knowing your characters in your story. And those are the most important things for me. And then I think if you can do that, you can get a story that's good and that people can relate to on one level or another.
That sounds really interesting. So that brings me up to a question. I'm just kind of curious. So are you a plotter? Are you a pantser? Are you a little bit of both? And how you approach writing?
I think I'm probably a little bit of both. Maybe more of a plotter. I think I go with usually my protagonist, the antagonist, and go with whatever journey they need to go on and formulate around them.
Okay. Have you ever gotten to, or how do you overcome any troubles with writing? Like if something's not coming to you maybe right away, you say with an object or whatever it was, for you to formulate that idea in your story, what helps you get to that next level? Or is there a process that you take that helps you understand your story or what needs to be said?
It varies. I usually will put it aside and work on it because I have a notebook with so many ideas that I want to write. So usually I'll work on something else and then go back. And then it's usually when you're trying to work on something too hard for me that it's not going to happen. Okay. So I let it go a little bit, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, that's it. It'll, and
the answers
go
will
back
come
to it. Yeah. That tends to work the best for me. So.
Yeah, sounds like good advice.
Yeah.
So how long have you been writing? Like, how did it start? How did you become a writer? Have you always been writing? Is it something, I know that you also write for the, sorry, could you tell me?
The American Meteorological Society.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting.
Yeah, that's my real job.
Okay, well, they're all your real jobs.
Yeah, no, it's true. That's my full-time job.
So that sounds very different from what your stories are. So where did that come from, that stories? Where did that come, just that idea?
Yeah, so I've always been a fiction writer. Okay. So probably, starting in high school, I'd say. And I also made a lot of just bad movies in high school for fun. So I've always had that in there, I think, and it didn't come out till more recently. But in college, I was an English major, and my honors project was writing a collection of short stories. So
wonderful.
And actually, The Squirrels in the Attic is based on one of my short stories, and then I wrote it as a screenplay, which I've done with a bunch of my older stories, and some work, some don't. Some are not cinematic and you can't make them cinematic, but, and it did change a lot in turning it into a screenplay, because they're different mediums. But, so I've always written, and screenplays are, it's a newer, I think I've said in interviews recently that, that's very new to me, and that's not totally true. And what I mean by that is so my first screenplay that I did was a feature, and I was trying to write a book, and I couldn't make it happen, but I loved the story, and that translated into doing a screenplay, and I did it very quickly, and it did well in contests and everything, but then I didn't have the knowledge to follow through, and so it wasn't until, because it was probably 10 years ago, and it wasn't until the last couple of years that you have to be proactive in screenwriting. You can't just win a contest and then be like, oh, I won, it's going to, be a famous movie now. That's not how that works. So I've learned more of the business and the process, and, okay, so I won this. Now what do I need to do? Okay. Who do I need to talk to and now I'm, starting to do them myself, which that changes your whole writing game as well.
Oh, how does it change your writing game?
So I think directing has been the most helpful thing for me, for my writing, my screenwriting, because I think they're two different parts of your brain, director and writer. And, when you're writing, it's this creative flow, if you're lucky, not all the time, but when you have it going on and you get the story right. And the director, you're thinking of the big picture and the logistics, which is, writers don't think logistically, I think, or I don't, or didn't. You know, I think you can also write like a writer and then look at it like a director. But like I've used this example before, but like for the Squirrels in the Attic, and this was the first time I had to do a shot list. And so, which I find torture, by the way. but so I'm doing my first shot list, and it's right off the bat in this screenplay, and my protagonist gets to the house, and there's this bad guy inside. She doesn't want to talk to him. If you see the trailer, that's actually the part. Yeah. And so she, in my screenplay, it was a live squirrel, not even thinking about this, when you're writing. And it was really to show her character's state of mind. Like, she's nervous. She doesn't want to go in there and talk to this guy, but she has to. And, she throws a rock in and it skitters off. It was just like a character to show her character. And I got to the shot list and I was like, I can't make that happen. How would I make a live squirrel? Like, I'm going to get a squirrel to come to the porch and sit there.
Squirrel wrangler.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you have professionals who do that, but we had no budget. So just little things like that and I changed it to a porch ornament, and it turned out to be like a really great part in the screenplay, which you'll see, like, it was beneficial to the screenplay. But so now I do think about little things like that, that I think a lot of writers wouldn't be thinking about. It just seems natural, like, I'll write a squirrel, whatever. It's just, that's like, well, I can't make that happen.
That's great advice. I can imagine now, having had this experience directing, it's going to influence all your writing going forward.
Definitely. And actually the first screenplay that I wrote after directing,
which one was that?
The Influencer.
Okay.
And it won the Emerging Screenwriters Shoot Your Short Grand Prize, which was really exciting. It was
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
And I'm actually going to LA in 2 weeks for the shoot, which was, I got delayed because of COVID. And I was bummed because I thought I was going to have to miss it because of COVID, but they weren't able to, do as much as they could. So it's happening in a couple of weeks and I get to go. And so that'll be like a really great different experience for me too, because I haven't been on someone else's set yet, so to work, and I've been working with the director, through Zoom and the ISA, and it's been a really great experience.
That's amazing. That's fabulous.
I'm sure I'll learn a lot from him, and he's been fantastic in also really respecting my writing and keeping it the story as I wrote it, which doesn't happen all the time with writers and directors. So I'm very thankful for that and excited for the experience.
That's awesome. And we have so many things to watch from you coming out,
Yeah.
It's really pretty amazing. There are just so many that are lined up. It's wonderful.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it seems very fast. I mean, it is pretty fast, actually. But, I'm also coming in a little late, and I'm like, okay, I just got to do as much as I can. And I really enjoy it. I mean, I would do it all the time if I could.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, here's to your progress, because it seems like that's where you're heading.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
thanks.
That's great. So that brings me back to something that you said earlier about promoting your work. Basically, you're saying you'd won this award 10 years ago or so, something like that, and then didn't follow up. What was that change that made you realize, wow, this is something I have to do?
Yeah, there were two things. So I was still writing at the time, and I actually got a lot of material. So I wrote features and a TV pilot, and they all did well and got a lot of attention. But what was the game changer was finding out that film festivals have unproduced screenplay categories, which I didn't know. And so I started submitting to festivals and then going to the festivals with when my screenplays would get in. And that was just such a great, it's networking, but also like just learning from people, like, cause when you're starting, there's so much, I obviously didn't go to film school or anything. So there's so much I didn't know, and there's so much I still don't know, so just talking to people. I mean, it almost felt like the first film festival. I was like, it was almost like a foreign language. Like when you're talking to all the filmmakers, I was like, I don't know what acronyms they're using, but I'm gonna go back and look them all up. But it was this really fast, great learning experience, and it really was what inspired me to, do the directing after like a year. So that was like 2019, and the other thing was I wasn't putting, for my earlier screenplays, I wasn't on social media with them, and my friend finally said to me, like, you need to, you're not going to get anywhere with these if people don't know you have them or winning these things or, you know, writing them. You really need to get on there, which can be uncomfortable for people, but it was like instantly productive.
Really?
You know, yeah. So whether you hate or love social media.
Are you uncomfortable? Were you uncomfortable then about putting your work out there?
Yes.
Because I think that's probably the biggest hurdle for people who just don't. They're just really not comfortable.
Yeah. I still don't like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it feels funny.
Yeah.
I want this. I don't think it's comfortable for anybody. But you know, if you wanna get your stuff made or make it, or you know, meet the people, you know, it's great networking, and you know, the film community is really supportive. I found
that's great.
It's wonderful. Like I found that with the festivals, like you would think. I think the first one I went to was in LA, and you know, expecting to be intimidated. Everyone was wonderful. Like just so helpful.
That's awesome. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
That's really great to hear.
Yeah.
And I love also that you're coming in with it saying, you know, I didn't know a lot about how to do this, but you just did it. And it really is a game changer for you. It seems to really be promoting yourself and putting yourself out there. And really one of our biggest hurdles, I think, is allowing ourselves to be heard, which your writing also seems to cover in some of your characters, you know, letting their voices out. That's really powerful.
Yeah, thank you.
So what is success going to look like for you? Or is this just like a game? When I say game, like something fun, like fun and games, you're just going to do it forever, no matter what.
Oh, yes, definitely. You know, of course, you want, you know, I mean, I guess an ultimate goal would, you know, to be maybe have this as a career. But, you know, it's really hard business too. So I'm also, that's, you know, that's what I'm shooting for. But I love it. And I'm doing it because I love it. So in the end, it actually doesn't matter. Right. Yeah.
Because you get the enjoyment of it while you're doing it.
Yeah. And I love telling stories. I love piecing them together. What was unexpected to me with directing, I wasn't sure if I was going to like it, you know, going into it. And, you know, because I, as a writer, you know, I'm an introvert. A lot of people are surprised by that. But I was like, I don't like bossing people around, but that's not what directing is. And it's really just putting all of the pieces together of the story that's in your mind. And I actually loved the wholeness of it, not just the writing. Because I was like, the set design, the wardrobe, the casting, those were all three of my favorite things, which I'm doing right now for my next one. And it's really satisfying and fun. It's very immersive and intense, but I love it because it gets closer to what you're thinking. I mean, you can never get it exact, obviously, because you've made this up with these, you know, these people don't exist. This location doesn't exist, but it's fun trying to piece it together.
Right. To match the image that's inside your head.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. It must have its own set of challenges as well.
Oh, it does. There's a lot of challenges. None of it's easy, but it's very satisfying. But I thought the other day, and I want to talk to other writers and directors about this, that the story, I have the original people and settings still there, the whole entire thing. It wasn't replaced by the films. And I was like, oh, I have both versions. That's so interesting. And I want to talk to other writers about that.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's
really
fun.
Cool. I got two versions.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
What was the biggest unexpected challenge that you found? Either maybe going into directing because that was so new for you recently, or it could be writing.
Writing, you know, features are tough, and I really needed a new one. I have a few that have done well, but I'm trying to write a new one and to get the time, because I mean, that's just, you know, a long haul project. And then I always get distracted by writing new shorts because I have all these ideas. So that's my writing challenge right now. Directing is, you know, that it is so intensive. It's so intense. And you're thinking, for me, like on set, you know, I'm always thinking of, I probably think more like a writer than a director. So like, I'm always thinking of character and story. And then you get distracted by lots of little things and questions, you know, from everybody and all the things that will go wrong. And, you know, so solving the problems, you know, but again, that's part of every film that people do, you know, it's really problem solving.
Directing, is that how you see it?
It pretty much is. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot, you know, problem solving in all areas, you know, with the acting and the set or whatever's going wrong with lighting or sound, like the first in Squirrels in the Attic we filmed, it was freezing cold because it was winter. And then in July, it was 100 degrees and everyone was dying the second time. And it was during COVID. So those were extra challenges that I think we dealt with well. But again, on top of everything else you're thinking of, it's a lot.
Yeah, that's amazing though, that you're doing it, especially it being something new for you. But there must be something really wonderful about it and special as well, because the story lives in your head and the characters live in your head. So to be able to direct something that you created, that you're following that inner vision and making it work as best you can in the outside world. Do you have any interest in directing anybody else's stories? Have you ever thought of that?
I have recently, because I've been asked a couple, but I don't feel I'm experienced enough to do that yet. I wouldn't be against that at all. Someone actually was talking about me directing a documentary. So I'm looking into it. I'm open to anything, honestly.
It's how we learn.
Yes, yeah. You learn different things each time. I learned a whole new set of things the second time. I'm sure anyone, and no matter how experienced they are, learns something each time. So yeah, I'm definitely open to that.
Yeah, that'll be really interesting to see, like the directions that your career goes. Do you have a preference for it? Is writing still the biggest thing for you?
I think so. Yeah. Even though, as probably most writers will say, there's a lot of pain in it, but we can't stop doing it.
Right.
We're not sure why.
Right. I think that's kind of the definition of writing.
It is. It's painful and torturous, but you keep doing it.
Yeah.
It's just, I think it's just getting the stories out there.
Right. So how do you think about your stories when you're approaching one now? Is there if you're thinking about voice, is there a certain message that you want to convey, or are you just trying to tell a good story, or is there always some kind of line that seems to follow through your stories?
That's a good question. I never start a story with a message, or about it being about something. I'll start with the character, but it always ends up, it has to be about something, or it's not a good film, I don't think, so it always ends up that way. But it's not purposeful, which is interesting. I've thought about that. I was like, how does that work? It's almost like a mysterious process for me. How did that end up being about that? But, I think that formulates as I'm writing and going along. My new one, Penny, that we're going to be shooting, it's my first one that falls into horror. I mean, it's still psychological, but it's horror. And I started that purposefully trying to see if I could fit a screenplay into horror. I think it was because I was, the Squirrels in the Attic was in Nightmares Film Festival, which is a really excellent quality film festival. It's very competitive and it's genre. And my film was a little bit, outside of the realm, although it did get nominated, there's real horror, but it's like the best quality. I was so blown away by the quality of these films. I was like, I'm just going to see if I can write something, so that was fun. And then, so I ended up with this script, and then my lead, Charlie Carr, who was in The Squirrels in the Attic, she's going to be Penny. And it was funny because we were just chatting, and I was in the middle of writing it, and we were talking about horror films, and we were both watching a lot of them during the pandemic. It made us feel better for some reason, and I don't always love watching them. And then I was like, she's like, well, let me know if you ever have any roles. And I was like, wait a second, the one I'm writing right now is perfect for you. So that worked out great.
That's excellent. Yeah. That's excellent. So what was the biggest hurdle going to writing like horror, as you said, as opposed to maybe a psychological thriller or something like that?
It's so hard to come up with something that's not cliche, because it was very hard.
Right.
That was my big thing, and I didn't want to write something cliche. So, so it's a little different, but it's won a lot as a screenplay, and so it's had a really great response. And so I'm hoping, if we make it the way I would like to, that I think it'll have the same audience response.
Are you directing this one as well?
I am.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
That's
So I'm
exciting.
casting right now. There's a lot of fantastic New England talent, so I'm having a hard time casting, fitting, because there's 8 roles, and there's more roles from this time also. So I'm trying to put the pieces in, and I'm struggling because there's so many good people.
That's going to be
Which
a
is
real
good.
challenge.
It's a good problem.
No, it's a great problem.
Yeah.
But I can understand from the director's point of view that's a real challenge.
It is.
Yeah, because you're removed somewhat, I imagine, as the writer. But to be a part of that process, and that's really interesting. That's really cool. Is there a director or writer that you like has influenced you, or just that you like to? Like a favorite, maybe? I know it's hard to say favorite. Maybe just up there.
So I've been taking the master classes.
Oh, God, I love that.
Are you taking that?
Oh, my God, yeah.
Yeah. Have you taken any of the acting writer?
I haven't done the writing I listen to, just because it's just having that there with you and to be able to hear some of these pearls of wisdom.
Oh, yeah. So I've done all the writing ones, and the directing. I love Jodie Foster.
Yes.
That was my favorite.
She's one of my favorite anyway.
Isn't she? She's
really
got
is.
it all because she was a child actor. She
and made it.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Made it through, kept going.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So she's really inspirational. I love David Lynch. He's just got this, I loved his.
I watched his too.
Oh, did you? Was that a great one?
Yeah.
I think that was the first one I watched. So, and there was a couple others. So yeah, those were my favorites, I think. And I like the darker, I'm always like a Quentin Tarantino, that type of thing. I don't really write like that, but I do enjoy that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was there ever a piece of advice that really stuck with you? Or anything, either a quote or something someone said to you about like writing or just conducting yourself that just really hit home, that kind of helps?
I think that, I can't remember like what the context would be of this, but whenever I see something that you can't, it's the people who don't stop who are going to succeed. Like, there's so much rejection, right? And some people can't handle, it at all. And people are always like, "You're winning everything." I was like, "No, I'm not." Trust me. I get rejected way more than I win, as most people do, you know? And so I think just to keep going is, and it's fine. Not finally. No, it's been a long time. I've been doing this a long time, so like, and, starting to see some, that it all comes around.
The
no matter
momentum.
what you do, like things I did years ago, which you think don't matter when you're doing them, they do. They all end up mattering.
That's so
whatever you're doing really is helping you, whether you think it is or not.
Okay.
So that's what I found. And these funny little pieces later come together, either with a person or something I worked on, and which seemed meaningless. And I was like, wow, that came back around. So your hard work definitely will pay off if you keep doing it.
So for anybody out there who might be, I think this whole conversation has been really encouraging. Just to hear, just go for it, just do it, and don't be afraid to put yourself out there. You really have to. And any other words of advice you would give to anyone looking to start writing or even start directing?
Yeah, I would say for writers, even if you don't plan to direct, that it's just, if you write something and then even just shoot it on your phone, I'm telling you, that will just change the way you're looking at things and be really helpful. Like, just get your friends, make them do it, and you'll just learn a lot by doing that. Even if you don't want to jump into like a directing.
I love that.
Role.
Just pick up your phone and just do it, and then you're going to see the difference. Yeah, that's great. That's good advice. Well, thank you so much. And
thank you for having me.